Hello students, welcome everyone. So today we are going to start with our next fundamental right, that is cultural and educational right. Okay, now cultural and educational right is basically to safeguard the rights of linguistic, cultural and the religious minorities. Okay, so preserving the culture and the heritage is vital, so to ensure that the education is to be provided for everyone without any kind of a discrimination. The educational right has also been formulated, as we have seen in our previous fundamental rights. Okay, so let's see in detail regarding what does this particular article fundamental right, that is cultural and educational right, article 29 and article 30 of the Indian Constitution says. Okay, so in this first slide, as you can see, we will be going to see that what are the cultural and educational right. Now, as I have told you earlier in the previous video also, that fundamental rights are the guaranteed basic rights which have been provided to the citizens, and there are total 6 fundamental rights, and out of these 6 fundamental rights, article 29 and article 30 basically deals with the cultural and the educational right of an Indian citizen. Now this particular fundamental right, as I've told you earlier, that it intends to preserve the culture of all minority groups in India, as well as Indian society is a composite heterogeneous one, and its diversity is one of its strengths. So to the explanation of the term diversity with the fundamental rights, we are going to do in the further classes. Let's see. At the same time, under cultural and educational right, there are certain rights which have been guaranteed by the Constitution to the minorities, so that their rights can also be preserved, as we are living in such a society, in such a nation which is diverse in culture, right? So there basically the rights of the minorities are also needed to be preserved. Okay, at the same time, the Constitution also guarantees that these rights which are there with the minorities, so that their diversity of the country can also be preserved, as well as at the same time it can also provide the avenues for all the groups, including the marginalized ones, to protect, preserve and propagate their culture. Okay, let's see now in detail regarding what does article 29 and what does article 30 says. Now before going directly to the explanation part of article 29, as I've told you previously, that India is such a nation which is diverse in nation. So when we talk about the Indian society, the image of diversity comes before our mind. India is not just a monolithic society. Okay, we are having such kind of a society that has vast diversity. So in such a society that is full of diversity, there would be social sections which are small in number, as well as the that particular section of the society which are you can say large in number as compared to the social section which is large. Okay, so what do you think should happen to those group which is in minority? Okay, what all things they should be doing? Should they be adopting the culture of the those sections of the society which are in majority as compared to them, or not? Okay, so our basic constitution believes that the diversity is our strength. Therefore, one of the fundamental right which says that is the right of the minorities to maintain their culture. Now this particular minority status should not be dependent only upon the religion. That is the main thing of this particular article 29, which says that there should be the protection of the minorities when it comes to their fundamental rights. Okay, so there should not be the, you can say, emphasis should be given, or the minority status should not only be dependent on the religion, but at the same time those groups of society or those which are linguistic, that is language and cultural minorities, should also be included under this particular article 29 provisions. Minorities are the groups that have common language or the religion, and in a particular part of a country or in a whole country as a whole, if we take it, they are outnumbered by some of the other sections, because we know that there are not all the sections which are there in India belongs to the majority only. there are certain sections in our Indian society which are in minority. So what about the protection of their fundamental rights? So under Article 29, it says that the interest which is there, that is based on religion, language and the culture of the minorities groups should also be protected under Article 29. Okay, so such communities having a culture, language and a script of their own have the right to conserve and develop these. Okay, so this is basically referring to Article 29, that is section 1, as you can see in this slide. Article 29 section 1 says that this provides all the citizen groups that reside in India having a distinct culture, language and script the right to conserve their culture and the language. This right is absolute and there are no reasonable restrictions in the interest of the general public here. Whereas when it comes to Article 29(2), it states that the state shall not deny admission into the educational institutions which are being maintained by the state or those that receives the aid from it, that is from the state, to any person based on race, religion, caste, language, etc. This right is given to all the individuals and not only just a particular community. Okay, so this is regarding Article 29 that refers to the protection of the interest of all the minorities sections. Next is Article 30. Article 30 basically refers to the right of the minorities to establish and administer the educational institutions. Okay, now as I've told you earlier that when it comes to education, each and every individual does have the right to gain access to the education at least up to the age of years 14. Okay, and we know that this is also one of the important fundamental right provided to every children from 6 to 14 years to gain the right to education under Article 21. Okay, so all the minorities, whether it is a whether it is based on religious, whether it is based on linguistic, can set up their own educational institution. By doing such kind of a thing, they are basically trying to preserve and to develop their own culture. Okay, the government will not provide any kind of aid to the educational institution, but at the same time it will not discriminate against any educational institutions which are on the basis that it is under the management of minority community. So Article 30, it says that this right is given to the minorities to form and govern their own educational institutions. This is also referred as, that is Article 30 is also called the Charter of Education Rights. Now under Article 30 we have Article 31 that says that all religious and linguistic minorities have the right to establish and administer the educational institutions of their choice. Whereas Article 32 says that the state should not, when granting aid to the educational institutions, as I have told you earlier, discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. So, overall, Article 30 is trying to protect the right of the minorities to establish or for administering any kind of a educational institution, basically if it is under the management of a minority, whether it is based on religion or it is based on language. Okay, so this particular you can say fundamental right, okay, this particular fundamental right says that the providing all kind of rights which are there, basically emphasizing upon the minority groups. Okay, as I've told you earlier that there are certain sections of this in our society which are not in the same amount, which are not in the same number, or you can say they are outnumbered. There are certain society which are outnumbered as compared to the other sections of the society. They are referred as minorities. So the constitution has provided this particular article, that is 29 and 30, to say that the rights of the minorities are also getting, or it has also been, you can say, preserved and protected by the Indian constitution. So overall, at this particular fundamental right, you all can say that is educational and cultural right is one of the important fundamental right for preserving and protecting the rights of the minorities. Okay, students. So this much for today for your cultural and educational right. Tomorrow we are going to continue with our next and the very important right, that is right to constitutional remedies. Thank you, students.